So I'm going to do an example of tell me about a time you had a conflict with a supervisor, especially because the word conflict can conjure up a lot of different feelings and it can be negative. So a really general way that someone could answer this that is not following the STAR methodology is, I was working at a government organization as a teacher, and I had a discrepancy with my supervisor about time and term limits of when our new residents could go outside. So I arranged a meeting with him and the rest of the team, and we were able to come to an agreement and move past it. So that didn't really conjure up any imagery. It wasn't specific. It didn't specifically state the situation and the task and the action or the result. I just kind of glossed over things. And I really sold myself short on that. I didn't talk about, what I did to improve the situation. So let's do this in another way. So we'll do it in STAR method now. So tell me about a time you had a conflict with a supervisor. I was subcontracted as part of the public school system to work at a juvenile detention center where we served students from ages 14 to 18 of all different cultural backgrounds. And oftentimes they were transported to us from other facilities, and they would have time restrictions on how long they would be in our custody before they were allowed to go outside. Previously, it had been 72 hours, so they would be transferred to our facility and they would not be allowed to go outside for 72 hours. But I remembered in a meeting that we had a month before that it was deemed if they were coming from low-level security institutions, they would be on hold for 24 hours instead of 72, so they'd be able to go outside after 24 hours. This was really important to me on this particular day because our class was planning a really large Cinco de Mayo celebration outside with another facility and another program. So it was a really great socialization opportunity to meet and celebrate and be outside. And days like this were very few and far between in the detention facility, and it really, really meant a lot to the students. So we received about 6 new students the day before, and our supervisor said they were not allowed to attend the Cinco de Mayo celebration outside, and they needed to be detained to their rooms because we didn't have enough staff to watch them inside because we had this big celebration going on outside. I had remembered, however, that we had that meeting and I thought it was 24 hours. So the conflict we had was, I stated, I believe it was 24 hours. I think the students can attend the event because they've been here for 24 hours, and I thought the rule was changed. So we discovered we had a bit of a conflict about that. So I contacted, he and I both contacted his supervisor, and were connecting with upper level management to see what the rule and regulation were, and they were kind of fuzzy about it too because we had a lot of changes happening at the time. So we decided to have a quick meet about it. We met in my classroom and we reviewed what was spoken about in that meeting prior a month ago and realized it actually was 24 hours. So then upper management reconnected with all their staff just to reinforce that it is 24 hours. Let's all be on the same page of this. The result is we had increased staff now because we didn't have to staff an outside portion and an inside portion of the building. So all of the students got to come to the Cinco de Mayo festival, and instead of being, quarantined to their room on their first day, which could kind of give them a really negative flavor for the program, they got to participate in our celebration and become part of the community, and we all just were able to, even though we were in a detention center, we were all able to just have a really good day that day. So that was the result. Okay. So the second story I told had a lot more imagery, a lot more, showing of my skills and how we were able to communicate and really save the day. it had a really happy ending, which is why I like using that story. The happy ending is, you know, the kiddos got to be with their peers and not be isolated. So feel free to leaf through your binder to look at another example of a STAR story, okay? Other things that are in the binder, you have about 7 example questions to write in STAR format, okay? So once you've brainstormed your list of accomplishments, okay, read through the materials about STAR questioning and STAR answers and behavioral interviewing, I'd like you to choose an example question from your binder, or choose a question that you have had historically had trouble answering in interviews. So mine was always conflict with the supervisor. These worksheets have about 7 questions on them, and then there's this other worksheet that says interview questions, and you can choose between these 2. During your mock interview, we're going to throw 2 random interview questions at you, and then I will ask you the question you select right now, okay? And the question you can select can be any question that has given you problems in the past that you don't like, because we need to get you practicing it so it will go more smoothly for you. It can be any of these questions on the worksheets. It can be any of these questions on this interview questions worksheet as well, okay? So once you have done this, once you've chosen your question, step 4, this is where we bring it all together like the end of a Seinfeld episode. Step 4 is write the answer to that question by reframing one of your professional accomplishments into the STAR format, okay? So I'm going to take a look at my list of professional accomplishments, and I'm on one side, and maybe take a look at these questions on another side and see if I can make any matches. My professional accomplishment of increasing sales productivity by 20% in under 6 months, perhaps that goes to tell me about a time you worked on a team. My accomplishment of being a great communicator and getting everyone on the same page so the students could participate in the Cinco de Mayo festival could be working on part of a team. It could be conflict with a supervisor. It could be conflict with a coworker. My answer about how I streamlined this data processing system where it used to take customers 2 months to get the information, it now takes them 2 weeks to get the information, can be about, tell me about a time you met a deadline. Tell me a time you saved your employer money. Maybe you want to tackle the question of tell me about a time you didn't meet a deadline, or tell me about some of your weaknesses, because those are often difficult questions, and we want to flip it a little bit on its head and talk about, I didn't meet the deadline and this was my weakness, but this is what I learned from not meeting the deadline and how we changed things. This is what I'm learning about my weakness and how I'm addressing it. So that is how we're going to prepare for our mock interviews today if you're at home and you have time, because we won't have time to do this in class tomorrow. So let me just recap, because I don't want to be confusing. So 1, you're brainstorming your list of professional accomplishments. Step 2, you're reading through your behavioral interview and STAR items in tab 9. Step 3, you're choosing from the example questions in your binder, or you're choosing a question that you have difficulty answering in an interview setting. Step 4, you're writing an answer to that question by reframing one of your professional accomplishments into the STAR format. And then when we do the mock interview, I'll ask you the question to trigger your beautiful STAR answer that you've written out for today. So that's about it. That's our behavioral interview lesson in 20 minutes or less. I'm available to email. Like I said, follow up with that interview workshop. And if you do this, you'll be prepped and get the most out of your mock interview on Thursday. So stay tuned. We're planning on meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and we'll be in contact with you if there's another snow day. So tired of this, but it is what it is. So keep up the good work.